Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lynn Perry. At the conference, I am first and foremost a parent. I have four children. I'll introduce you to them in a minute. And they all have a connective tissue disorder. They were diagnosed back in 2010. And I've been involved with NYMAC since 2015 on various levels. And I've always enjoyed my time here working with NYMAC. And I'm just trying to reduce my all right. I think we're good. All right. So yes, we are good. So, all right. So as I said, my first role here is as a parent of children who are now teenagers and young adults somehow, but they all have a genetic disorder. And I have no disclosures or conflicts of interest. In fact, right now I'm not really even employed, so I have nothing to report there. All right, so I'll introduce you quickly to the my pathway into genetic services. These are my children at two different stages of their life, obviously. My children are Erin. She is my only daughter. She's 20 years old, and Aiden is 18. Declan, or sorry, I forgot Ian. Ian is will be 16 on Monday, and Declan is 13. And I always have their permission to talk about them because we feel that if I can share their story and help other families, then a little less privacy is worth it. They know I talk about them. They encourage me to do it. Uh, like I said, they all have a connective tissue disorder. It was diagnosed in 2010 at Johns Hopkins after a pretty extensive search of trying to find a diagnosis. Aiden also has autism type 1 and ADHD, and Declan has ADHD. All three boys have aortic issues. Aiden was diagnosed with an aortic aneurysm at Johns Hopkins at age 7. Erin lives in New York City. She's a college kid, going to school down there and loving it, living her best life. The boys are all living at home here in central New York. Aiden is 18, like I said, will be graduating in a few short months. And one of the things I'm helping him with right now is to make that college decision, which is pretty amazing considering how far he's come. The picture on the left was taken at the beach, obviously, but it was used in a conference poster back in 2010 when we first started this journey. And the poster was about the importance of echocardiograms for people suspected of connective tissue disorders, which is important to our family because that's how Aiden's aneurysm was detected. And then this picture on the right was from our recent trip to Florida during our winter break. All right, so we're running a little short on time, but I still do want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So in the chat, if you would state your name, the state you're from, or representing, like if you're out of the NYMAC region, but you work for a program in a state that's within the NYMAC region, let us know. One thing you're hoping to get from the conference, and one thing you are looking forward to this summer. I was just going to look in the chat. So if everybody could just put something in there, that would be great. Oh, Luba's looking forward to gardening. Yes, me too. I run into Luba at the farmer's market, actually, which is kind of nice. I will also, I'm Lynn. I'm from Central New York. Like I said, I live in Binghamton, actually, which is where Luba lives as well. And Michelle's looking forward to cooking. Very good. And I hoping to meet more people, always looking to meet more people, which is great. And also one thing I'm looking forward to this summer is having all the kids together at the beach. It'll be the last time before Aiden goes to college. Aaron goes back to college, and Aaron will be a college senior in the fall. So I don't know where next year will take us. So it's probably our last time to go to the beach for a while. And Allison's from University of Pittsburgh. Sunny weather, yes, 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 sunny weather, which I don't have here in Binghamton today. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going to continue on. So when Alyssa first approached me about this presentation and what about doing the presentation, I kind of went back to like that first conference I went to in the spring of 2015. It was at the Lord Baltimore Hotel. There was about 300 people in a room. And I kind of went back to what I would have appreciated at that conference as I started the day to kind of come up with what I was going to talk about today. So first of all, we're going to kind of talk about genetics in a non-clinical way, because really at that conference, I felt pretty disconnected from a lot of the clinicians. So we're going to go talk just like very briefly about genetics and what you might remember from your high school biology class. And I want parents to feel connected. So then we're going to, oh, and I also want parents to realize that we are connected as genetic consumers, as we use the system of genetics and we have our families and we or are, take them to geneticists, and we will in the future too. So, and as genetics is constantly changing. I'm going to introduce NYMAC and explain how involvement in NYMAC can be mutually beneficial for both parents and NYMAC, the other people, the other stakeholders in NYMAC. And lastly, I'm going to discuss the conference and how to make most of your time and experience here at the conference. All right. So how does genetics work? Like kind of reintroducing your old high school biology class. I have to say I was never a huge fan of science, kind of interesting that I have a kid who loves science, who's majoring forensic science, but never my cup of tea. So when I had kids with with diagnosed with genetic issues, I had to like go back and kind of figure this out. So, and I got most of these notes from a great presentation from NERGAN, which is a Northeast Regional Genetic Collaborative. They have a lot of great presentations on this that are on their website. So how does genetics work? Most cells contain chromosomes. You can see in the cell model here where the chromosomes are. Those chromosomes contain DNA, which is tightly wrapped around them. Humans have 23 sets of chromosomes. We have 23 numbered chromosomes and one set of sex chromosomes for a total of 46. There are instances where you could have more, like monosomy, where you, like Turner syndrome, where you have just one of these sex chromosomes. And, or you have, the most popular genetic disorder is trisomy disorder, where you have three perfectly good chromosomes, but they happen to be three of them. The most common genetic disorder is trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. So there's three chromosomes here, and they would have 47 chromosomes. You inherit one set of chromosomes from each of your parents. Those chromosomes contain genes and tell the body how to operate. You can think of those chromosomes as a guidebook to making a human. So like I said, this is just basic stuff. And going from cell to the double helix, which you might recognize is what we look at when we think of DNA. For an organism, to grow and function properly, cells must divide and produce new cells. And each cell will contain those 46, 45, 47, whatever the number is of chromosomes that you have. Whole chromosomes or pieces may be added, deleted, or completely on a chromosome that you're not expecting them to be on and switched. Chromosomes vary in shape, but generally have long arms and short arms. So if you hear someone talking about their child's genetic disorder that says they are missing a piece of the long arm of chromosome 6, you can kind of visualize that they're missing a section of the chromosome itself. And each chromosome is one very long strand of DNA tightly wrapped. And the double helix represents one side for each parent that made the individual. And the genetic code for that person is in between those two lines there. You can see the double here that says base pairs. That is where you will find the genetic code that tells the body what to do, but only when it's needed. It's not on all the time. All right, so understanding genes and variants. Genes are a section of the DNA chain, and they can be analyzed for differences when you're looking at genetic testing or analysis. It's estimated that the human genome contains 30,000 genes, which obviously is a very large number. It could be more because the human genome is currently being mapped by the Human Genome Project. But even as we are 99.9% identically the same, that 1%, that 0.1% that's different about us is a lot of genes to analyze. A lot of genes to analyze. And it could be, there's variants that happen just because they happen. 60% or we all inherit 60 variants that our parents didn't have. They just happen randomly, and they can be beneficial. They can cause they can not cause a difference in the individual, or it's something that causes an issue, and then it can be identified as causing an issue. But it's sometimes hard to tell if a variant is significant or not. Some are known to cause issues. They're easily identifiable when you do genetic testing, and they can see that there's a genetic variant there, and they can identify that because it's been confirmed in other people, and that results in a confirmed diagnosis. But you can also use genetic testing to in analyzing and analysis, sorry, is a good tool to rule out diagnoses. When Aiden went through, he was our first guinea pig, and when he went through genetic testing, we used it to rule out Lloyd-Dietz syndrome and also genetic or Fragile X syndrome. So that was really important for us to be able to rule that out for him. All right, so let's move on. And this is just very simple. Let's talk about how genes work, and we're going to talk about Declan's epic sledding adventure. He, this picture makes me laugh because he came back to me this way, and I went, "What happened to your face?" So we're just going to talk very simply about how genes work. So everything that makes up the human body comes from genes and tells the body how to make proteins that allow the body to function when needed. So let's just look at skin as one example. This is my youngest son, Declan. He was on a Boy Scout winter camping trip to Highland Forest in Tully, New York, and there's this really, really big hill. And in the middle of it was a jump, and Declan decided he was going to go over the jump because he's a bit of a daredevil. And when he got hurt, and I look at the picture, you can see he was wearing glasses too, so he has an imprint from his glasses. I'm happy to say his glasses were okay. When he got hurt, his body signaled his skin gene to make protein that would repair the abrasion. How quickly or slowly that happened and what it's used to fix that wound is all programmed by his genes. And they are different genes that gave him those blue eyes and blonde hair. The boys have a really good friend who also has a connective tissue disorder, but they have different connective tissue disorder. Declan's skin heals very slowly. He still has that mark. If you look closely, you can still see that mark 2 months later on his forehead. And that's just the way he's programmed. That's why his genes are programmed. He has a good friend who has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, type 1. If that had happened to his friend would have a dent in his forehead because he lacks collagen to repair the wound in the forehead. Declan luckily has the collagen, but his skin is still red there. So I hope that gives you a little bit of illustration. So when Declan fell, the gene that signaled that we needed to repair Declan, and thankfully it did, because we don't have that on him forever. So, but that's just one example of how genes work. So let's talk about what causes genetic conditions, though. Genetic conditions are caused naturally by changes occurring at the cellular or molecular level. The genes just change. Remember, I said that you don't inherit them. You get 60 genes, variants in your genes that your parents don't have. That's how evolution works. We are trying to change genetics as a species evolve. Many conditions are passed on to children. If some of them you would have to have two parents that have the genetic code for that, such as sickle cell anemia or cystic fibrosis. Otherwise, you have one parent, if only have one parent that has the carrier and another parent who doesn't, that child does not get that condition. Or in my case, my kids have an X-linked chromosome issue with the connective tissue disorder, what they got from me. So my husband's DNA had nothing to do with it. So sometimes conditions are not inherited. They don't know, they're not 100% inherited. In my case, it happened to be weird that all four of mine had the same condition, or they can happen randomly and they can become inheritable. When I have a friend who has Marfan's, and she always considers herself the breakout monkey. She had it, her parents didn't have it. It doesn't appear in their genetics, but it became inheritable to her children. Conditions can be apparent in utero. You can do measurements and find out that a child has a condition, or after birth through observation and through those EPGAR scores in the physical exam. Some of them don't occur until during childhood, once a child starts growing, or not until adulthood. I have friends who have been diagnosed with genetic conditions in adulthood or later. Conditions can be diagnosed by physical exam, personal medical history, family medical history. If you have somebody with a family medical history of something, you will want to be tested for it. And lab testing such as genetic, chromosomal, or biochemical, or other methods that captures samples that can be analyzed. This is why genetic reevaluations are important. I can't stress that enough. I had talked to a lot of parents who say, well, my child had a genetic evaluation when they were young, but they didn't find anything. I got a second opinion, and that's what saved my child's life. So the first geneticist couldn't help us because he didn't know. He said we were onto something, but he didn't have the knowledge to help us. And the second one had the knowledge to help us. So I can't stress enough. Always go back for that reevaluation. Go back to that reevaluation as I get older, because genetics is changing and there will be more knowledge out there for them to look at your child with, and different eyes will maybe produce a different result for you. All right, so that was a lot. Remember, I'm no expert. Are there any questions at this point? I'm not seeing any. Liz, are there any questions? Nope, no questions. All right, that is good stuff. So, all right, thank you. If there's ever any questions, feel free to just put them in the chat, and we will address them when they come up. All right. So let's talk about how we can use that experience that we have as genetic service consumers to make the world a better place for ourselves, and also for other families who are coming up through the system, or who are just going to be introduced to the system as they get older. One could say, we've all been dealt a lemon having a genetic disorder, but what we do with it, and how we use that to help the system of genetic services can be really beneficial to us, can be beneficial to families, and it definitely can be beneficial to NYMAC, hearing from all the stakeholders, because we are a stakeholder. We have a voice and a story to tell about genetics experience, even if it does not include a solid diagnosis. That's in bold there, because honestly, my kids don't have a solid diagnosis. We know it's a connective tissue disorder, but we don't know the genetic code for it. We don't know what proteins are affected. We don't know any of that stuff. We just know they have markers for a connective tissue disorder, particularly with the aortic aneurysm and the other aortic issues that the boys have. So, but I talk to parents all the time. Genetic odyssey. You suspect your child has a genetic condition, doesn't have a solid diagnosis. That is a really important story to tell, because we have valuable insight on how the system really works for families, and how service delivery can be improved to get more patients to genetics for a possible explanation and diagnosis. We have an opportunity to share our story and be part of system change within the system of genetics. So it's really important that we kind of share our stories. You'll see that at the top it says nothing about us without us. Actually, Bruce introduced me to that phrase many, many years ago at a NYMAC meeting, and I put it on many of my slides, because in order to have an effective system change, you have to evaluate it from all levels of the system, and all stakeholders need to take part. So thank you, Bruce. All right, so my next slide is, I'm just trying to figure out what your current level of involvement with NYMAC is. And so let's, from going from like a 1 where you're brand new to 5 where you've been around a while, and like me, they can't get rid of me. No, I'm just kidding. So 1, maybe this conference is your very first involvement and you're happy to be here. 2, you've received genetic provider information from NYMAC, and you got the information about the conference and you thought, hey, I would love to be there and see what they're all about. 3, you've attended previous conferences, maybe last year, and you came back for Fred's playlist because it is quite extensive and great. So maybe that's why you came back. 4 could be like you've been to conferences, or maybe you sit on one of our NYMAC state committees like I do. 5, you've been involved with NYMAC for a long time, many capacities, maybe sit on the advisory committee or state committees. And like I said, they can't get rid of you, but that's just a joke. But so I'm just curious here, how many people, so 5, Christy Weiss, yes. Hi, Christy. Luba, yeah, a lot of people have been here for a little bit. Awesome. Okay, so we have some people that have, oh, well, welcome, Selby. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Dr. Bob. Well, great. Getting some great, we have people from all over, ones and twos, all the way up to five. Alyssa's a 10, I've been told. Alyssa's definitely a 10. In many capacities, you are a 10, my friend. So, all right. So great. Thank you for that.
Lynn, I see,
Okay.
I think Rose Sutton has her hand up. Rose, did you have a question?
Oh, great. Thank you.
Not sure.
Oh, she says
Nope, she
no.
says no. Okay, go
All
ahead.
right. Thank you, Rose. All right. So we are turning to NYMAC now, because that's why we're all here, right? We're all here to participate in the NYMAC annual conference for the second year. No, third year, I guess. This is the third year we're virtual, right? Yeah, because you're number one. I had kids playing outside. I told them to go outside and stop bothering mom, and one came in with a broken finger. That was fun. That's an IMAC memory. All right, so turning to NYMAC, we are, I say we because I definitely feel like I'm part of NYMAC. We are a regional genetics network. We are a network of family groups, healthcare providers, public health groups, and other partners working together towards a common goal of making it easier for families to connect to genetic services and the information they need. I took these right from the website. The NYMAC region includes Delaware, the District of Columbia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, US Virgin Islands, Virginia, and West Virginia, which is a really big area. So they do their best and do a great job of providing those kind of resources for families and providers. All right, why is this not switching? Sorry. There we go. This is a slide that Alyssa did. I've seen this many times and I just copied it because no point in reinventing the wheel. So who does NIMAC collaborate with? Family organizations, people and families with genetic conditions, cultural organizations, professional societies, genetics clinics and service providers, pediatricians, family doctors, specialists and nurses, newborn screening programs, Title V, maternal child health, children's special health care needs, EDI and LEN programs, support groups, early intervention, perinatal networks, many more, and all with the, what do they do? What are we trying to do? Trying to improve genetic delivery systems through collaboration with diverse stakeholders. You are a stakeholder. If you're a parent, you are a stakeholder. Telemedicine project to make genetic appointments easier for families. I have enjoyed learning about telemedicine long before it was used before COVID. I had a lot of information about telemedicine and how it could work. So that when everything switched to telehealth during COVID, I was ahead of the game. Education about genetics to families and professionals, especially as genetics is continuously changing. It's important to get updated information. And that all is to achieve access to quality genetic services for people with genetic conditions and their families. All right, so let's turn to the conference now. You are at this NIMAC conference. It's lovely 2 days to get to know people here, get to know families, get to know providers, get to know people in your state. So it's really important to try to make the best of your time here. Also, if you want to just sit in the background, that is perfectly okay with everybody as well. I remember my first conference, and what really did make a difference is just to go out of my comfort zone, and talk to people. And that's why I'm here. I kind of made an impression, and then I got to come back for other events, and I said yes to those because it's a labor of love for me. That's for sure. All right, so you want to provide your insight, your experience. Remember, you have your own expertise. I think some of us, I know I will speak for myself, sometimes when you're a parent, you have like imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't really have any expertise because you're just kind of a parent. And maybe some doctors have made you feel like that, which is my case, but I always have to remind myself that I have my own expertise because I have four beautiful kids who all have a genetic condition, and their experience is my experience, and it's something that needs to be heard. Ask questions and give real world feedback. My feedback when my very first conference was 7 specialists, 3 states, 4 hospitals, 21 months to get a diagnosis. That was not something I would ever want any family to ever experience. So trying to work with that, I work with NIMAC is something that motivates me. Network, get to know the people in your state, experts on your child's condition. This is your opportunity. Maybe you'll find someone doing research on your child's condition. I've had that happen. And I was like, yay, I have to talk to this person. So that was really interesting and unexpected that day, but I had to do it. Visit the family's breakout room or other breakout rooms to chat in smaller groups. I'm going to be hanging out in the family's breakout room because I love to meet families and talk about our commonalities with our children and our experiences. So I won't be there after today. I have a kid with a tennis match at 4. So, but I will be there during the other breaks. Enjoy the conference atmosphere and Fred's playlist. I found the 2 different things Fred has done. His playlists are awesome. So enjoy that and enjoy the conference. Um, I was, I don't think, oh, shoot. So I don't know. I didn't read all of it because we were kind of going through it fast at the very beginning, but I love Pooh. He's kind of my hero. My name is Lynn, like you said. So when as a kid, everyone called me Linny the Pooh, which is funny. So he became my hero. But anything you'd like to add that you wish you are getting from the conference now that you've heard kind of what we're going to be doing here? I was thinking of this myself, and you can put your response in the chat if you want. Anything you'd like to add as a wish to get from the conference. I have a child who now lives in New York City. I've been able to network a little bit to try to get some genetic services to her so she doesn't have to travel to Baltimore, which is where Johns Hopkins is, which is where we get our genetic services. So trying to network on Erin's behalf is part of what trying to do here today. See if I can get her genetic services in the city. Oops, Pooh, come back here. And so if I can I was looking in the chat. Is there anything anybody else would like to learn about the conference today?
I
That would
think
be
Bruce had something to share.
okay.
I just want to say that that statement, nothing without us, I didn't coin it. It just stuck with me the minute I heard it many years ago at a parent conference, and we should take that to heart. But
Absolutely.
I wasn't the one. I wish I
No,
was.
you were not. I've seen it before, but I always attribute it to you, Bruce, because a concept I hadn't thought of until I met you, my friend. So thank you.
Yep.
And Lou was asking how I identified second opinion providers. Oh, so let's talk about, that's a good question, Liz. So thank you. And I'll just go ahead and get Pooh off the screen. Actually, before I get Pooh off the screen, let me just say one of my favorite Pooh quotes is, I know what it is in my head, but I just want to make sure I got it right. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. And when I'm faced with challenges where I'm doubting myself, feeling like I might have imposter syndrome, that I don't really know what I'm talking about, particularly because this is nothing I ever chose to do. This is just something I got myself into because of the kids. I think of that, braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. All right, so second opinion. Our journey was long. I should also say our journey started, all the providers were, right, Pooh. Wow. Okay, there you go. And, oh, there's my email. If you guys ever want to email me off the screen, I know I've already got a question this morning, email. Yeah, just feel free. I'm always wanting to connect with other parents through, just try to figure out all this genetic stuff. I love to keep in contact with people and learn your child's story, because your child's story is something I can even, talk about when I'm talking to other stakeholders and other groups I'm working with. So second opinion, how did I identify that? So all of our providers were at least 3 hours out of town. And we started with neurology, then moved over to developmental pediatrics. So first we went to CHOP, didn't get anywhere from there. That's in Philadelphia. And then Montefiore, where we met our first geneticist, and he was a great guy, but he had no idea where to send us, the whole exome sequencing was not out yet. So he wasn't sure what to test for. And So the one thing that all the providers we saw took aid into account saying was hypotonia, which is a clinical term for low muscle tone. So I did some research and I found what was then the Center for Hypotonia at Johns Hopkins. And then I was nervous about connecting with them just because I had been, it'd been a long journey. But then that very first phone call with that genetic counselor, her name is Emily Lisi. She's at Wake Forest now, and I recently reconnected with her. She just made all the difference in the world. When I talked to her, she was asking me questions about Aiden instead of me always providing the information. So she asked me about, oh, he has, hypermobile joints and, low muscle tone. What else can you tell me? Does he have a large head or, thick, thin skin? All kinds of things she was asking me. And then, with my answer, she said, we need to see him at Johns Hopkins. And so we went down, and she's the one who ordered the echocardiogram for him, which I always attribute to her saving his life because it's very uncommon for a 7-year-old to develop a aortic aneurysm. But she did, and we found it out, and he's now 18 and thriving with all that guidance. But it was how I just kept going. I kept finding things, listening to what doctors were telling me. And with that, it was hypotonia. That clinic no longer is there, but Johns Hopkins is still a great clinic. I think the thing you can do these days is just take those symptoms, keep trying, ask around, check out your regional genetic collaboratives to find out information about clinics. Lisa does a really good job. She put together a really extensive list of clinics that we have that you can visit, talk to other parents, see what they might have. Facebook is a wonderful tool these days with connecting with people. But does that answer your question, Luba? I should say, we're kids are getting older and they're not going to want to maybe stay on the East Coast. So we're going to have to find a third, transfer their care somewhere else, depending on where life takes them. So transition is an interesting part of life when you're going from pediatric to adult services and trying to figure that out based on, your child's desires and what their adult life is going to look like.
I think the issue of getting another opinion can be challenging. As you indicated, people can sort of give up after one consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And, one could contact NYMAC and ask for a reference for somebody in the state. So I'm glad. I think we're glad we can't give a specific recommendation, but we can let somebody know who where the major clinical centers are.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And NYMAC wasn't around when I was doing this. Either
Right.
was Facebook. I didn't have a whole lot of options. I just kept pounding the internet looking for things. But yes, NYMAC is a wonderful tool. But like I said, talk to other parents, call your, those, I used to be the family to family project director here in New York State. Call your family to family health information centers, ask them who might be somebody that you could see. They might have recommendations for you. They may even have parents for you to talk to who have children who are similar to yours. If you give them an explanation of what you're looking for, they may be able to match you up with a parent who has a child who has similar issues or concerns, and they may be able to connect you that way. So I totally forgot about it. It's been a while. It's been a month and a half since I left my job, but I was the family to family healthcare health information center director, and I strongly suggest you connect with those in your state. And you can go to if you go to the Family Voices website, you can connect there with those. And I can actually, if somebody wants to put the Family Voices information in chat, that would be great.
Any other questions for Lynn before we wrap up? I can put that in chat.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming.
Yes, Family Voices is a national organization that really brings all the 59 family to family health information center projects together and has a lot of projects among them, and is just very, very good organization to be affiliated with or know about when you have a child with disability or special healthcare needs.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you guys for coming and hearing about this. We hope it was a useful way to start your journey on this meeting. We're so grateful to Lynn for doing this for us. As she mentioned, at all the breaks, there is a family breakout room. So it's a great time to go meet other families and do some networking. And as Chrissy said in the chat, also don't be afraid to direct message people. So if there's someone you're interested in, you can send them a message directly.